I'm Heide Olson, founder, CEO, and visionary of All-in-One Accounting, and I wanted to just quickly share our EOS journey with you. It's been super fun and interesting, but about 13 years ago, I read Traction. I had read about it in the Business Journal, and I read it on a plane on the way to a board meeting in Mexico, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. So I self-implemented about 13 years ago. Then we worked with CJ Dubé, was our first implementer, so that was about 10 years ago. Then we graduated and we were on our own for a while, and we ran EOS on our own, and that was great. And now we're working with Dan Moji, and EOS has done wonders for our business. So I'm just a firm believer in it. We continue to add tools all the time. And when we do, I think, how did we ever survive without that tool? And we use it in our hiring practices with our clients, our team all the time. And it's just been a wonderful experience for us. So I'm just thrilled to be here with all of you and to share a year-end planning checklist. I hope that it's useful for all of you. All right. Can I share my screen with everybody? Is that doable? Okay. Let's see.
Heidi, you should see the share screen icon at the bottom. There it is.
Okay. Everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, this is an integrator group, and I'd like to start by saying I have just such a huge appreciation and really love for integrators, including my very own Becky Lewis, who is on this call today. And with the right integrator visionary combination, there is true magic that happens in any organization. So I am excited to be presenting to you today. And I know that we have a variety of integrator sizes and experiences. So this presentation for some of you will be just a review, and you've got all of these things covered. For some of you, this might be the first pass at your year end, and so this might be great information. And for some of you, maybe you'll just pick up a couple things to add to your year-end planning. So we're covering areas of finance that all businesses should complete to finalize their 2020 year end and set up for a successful 2021. So one of the first things that we want to do is accumulate your supporting documentation for every account on your balance sheet. So we want to make sure that we have a work paper, everything is validated on the balance sheet, and everything is reconciled. And when you send everything to your CPA, when you send this documentation, you are going to become your CPA's best friend, because everything is going to be thought out and reconciled and ready for tax prep. Then you're going to want to make sure that your shareholder adjustments for taxable fringe benefits like personal use of company auto are all laid out. The other things are life insurance that's more than 50% in excess, employee business expenses that are under non-accountability plans, and if your company has a company auto, a company boat or aircraft. And a little unknown one is an employee achievement awards. If you have more than $200 of employee achievement awards, that also needs to be included in adjustments for taxable fringe benefits. The next thing is summarizing benefits paid on behalf of owners or highly compensated employees. Your CPA is going to want a list of these things, including health insurance. And you're also going to want to have to do your compliance testing around your retirement accounts or 401ks. You're going to want to perform a year-end benefit renewal review of your pensions, health insurance, and PTO. So now is the time where you might want to be talking with your team about their PTO balances. And what are they going to do to reconcile those? Or what are you going to roll over? What's your company policy? Because you don't want to get to the end of the year and have issues with that. Usually you might want to look at making a few exceptions, but you're going to want to start talking with your team about PTO balances, because that's going to affect your P&L and that accrual, and making some plans around that. The next thing is sending a copy of your year-end projection to your tax CPA and having a meeting to plan about your tax strategy. The earlier the better. If you wait till December, your CPA is going to be busy. So if you can get these projections over to them and have them start working on your tax strategy, that's really a good thing to do at this point. The earlier the better, because those guys get really, really busy at year end. Right now is the time where we want to be collecting our W-9s and getting all of those email addresses from our vendors that you've paid more than $600 because come January, we're going to be issuing 1099s. And January is a really busy time for everybody. All the people on your team that are in finance, or your CPA if they're doing them, or your outsourced accounting professionals. So right now in November and December, if you can be gathering all of that information to make sure that you're setting yourself up for a successful 1099 season, just getting ahead of that, that's a really good thing to be doing right now, this time of year. Sending out new unemployment rates. Once you get those, make sure you get those sent over to your payroll provider. They'll appreciate getting ahead of that. Expense report template. Make sure that's updated for 2021 mileage rate. It looks like the IRS is keeping that mileage rate the same for 2021 as it was for 2020, but that will be updated on the IRS website. So just keep your eye open for that. Calculating the portion of total wages for officer and communicating that to your tax CPA. Most organizations don't break that out on your income statement, what they're paying their officers, but on an S-Corp tax return that is delineated, shareholder compensation, and so if you can just provide that as to your CPA. And the reason for that is if you leave that line blank on your S-Corp tax return, it is a giant red flag to the IRS, and you can expect that you would get in that audit pool because they want to know that you're paying yourself on a W-2. So that's definitely a piece of information. Your tax preparer will likely make an adjustment on their end. You don't necessarily need to make it on your internally generated financials, but for tax purposes, that's definitely a piece of information that they're going to want to see. The next item is ensuring that the credit card transactions with activity dates through December 31st are entered in the accounting software. So credit card cutoffs typically are not at the end of the month, so we want to make sure that we're capturing all those expenses, especially at year end. So we have a good clean cutoff and we have accurate financials for year end. Another thing that your CPA is going to really be taking a really close look at is that all your payroll totals work for the year. So when you get your final payroll reports for 2020, making sure that all of those totals tie. We don't typically do that necessarily every single month throughout the year, but making sure that's done at the end of the year is going to be very, very important, and your CPA is going to want to make sure that it's done. Making profit sharing or bonus accruals and payments at the end of the year. This is absolutely one of the best things, best days of the year here at All-in-One Accounting, when we get to calculate our bonuses and hand them out to our team. It's just a giant celebration of the hard work that this team has done. And we love to do this and get them handed out. So very important piece of the celebration that happens here at this company, and I'm sure at many of yours. Completing any other documentation requested by the CPA. Sometimes they're requesting, you know, if you're buying and selling assets, other things that they might want to see throughout the year, they'll request that you get that over to them. Renewal of business registration with the Secretary of State. This is different. So back when I was doing taxes, and now I'm going to date myself a little bit, we would always do the registration with the Secretary of State as part of the tax return. Well, that is not happening anymore. I'm not sure about you guys if you're doing it yourselves or if your tax preparer is, but this is oftentimes slipping through the crack. And so we are actually addressing this with all of our clients now. And when we started processing PPP loans, this was one of the requirements of the SBA, and we found that there were quite a few businesses that had not done this. So this is a really important piece to just make sure that this does not slip through the cracks. So this is an annual registration that needs to get done. So I would make sure that just does get done as part of your year-end checklist. The Secure Act and deduction if qualified retirement savings plan. So in 2020, there were a bunch of new opportunities for savings as well as use of these dollars that went into effect. So you probably would like to review those and make sure that if you have any people that are in those age brackets or having any of those things that they can qualify those dollars for are reviewing those things and that you're in compliance, and also just taking advantage of, you know, 70 plus in age can do some of those additional dollars to those accounts. Also, annual updates to internal controls. If you've had any changes to your internal team, if you've changed the way that you've done things, now is the time to review those segregation of duties. We want to make sure that all of our clients' assets are being protected, and this is a good time to just review those steps and making sure that no one person has too much control over any one thing in the organization. This year is we've added some things to our checklist due to COVID and some of those things that have bubbled up because of it. PPP loans. So reviewing your PPP loan and the assistance with the forgiveness application, making sure that all gets done and timely. There's been a lot of changes to that whole program in terms of how we submit. Do you have to submit the application? You know, all of the timing around the weeks that were applicable to that. I am happy to say that just this past Friday, when accounting got official SBA forgiveness on our loan, so that was a huge celebration for us. I hope the same is happening at each of your organizations. The next item is reviewing your year-to-date payroll records to ensure that the Ffcra limits are in compliance. That was another COVID program, but you would want to make sure that all of your numbers and hours are in compliance with that program. 2020 year-end projection, including actual results from the last day close period. So again, this is the time of year where we really want to be keeping an eye on how are we performing this year? What is it looking like, to share that with our CPA, to share that with our leadership team, to share that with our entire team, so that we can really, on a monthly basis, you know how we're doing, how does the year-end look like it's going to turn out, so that we can also start planning for 2021, keeping our eye not only on the end of the year, but also what is the next year going to look like. So for 2021, it's time that we start working on our monthly budget and our cash flow projection. And for many of us, that involves us working with our leadership team, working with our department heads, certainly working with our sales and revenue leaders. And I would also say that it's a good time for us to actually go out and look at what our industries are doing and what our peer groups are doing and comparing our numbers to those. And that can be a really, really powerful tool for us to look at things like, you know, how is our pricing compared to our competitors? How are we buying? How are our margins? And that can really, I think this year more than any, cause us to maybe adjust some things in the way that we're budgeting and forecasting for 2021. Sales and use tax. If you don't do these monthly or quarterly, there's certainly the annual filing, and for some companies this can kind of fall off your radar if you don't have monthly or quarterly sales tax. So don't forget that you need to get all of those records in order and file in January of 2021. And then there's the dreaded 1099 season. That's right around the corner. Even though I just talked about preparing for it, we actually have to do all those filings in January. And for many companies, this can be a big burden. Last year, we filed over 1,500 1099s for about 120 clients, and it was, you know, just gets to be a lot. And for many of you, I know that it's just an extra piece of work on top of your already busy January. So the better prepared that we could be with getting everyone set up with all the right information, the easier it will go. So that is our month-end, our year-end checklist and our checklist for getting prepared for 2021. Are there any questions?